No, because then that's evidence for your annual evaluation.
Right.
Most of the time, that's how it works.
Yeah.
If you've got,
Because we're using-
you've been called in.
We use that and biannual, I don't wanna get confused here, thing at the point of whether your step and grade is going to get approved.
I'm saying if you had an annual evaluation, if you denied somebody a step and grade, you'd have more evidence for that decision.
Right. Yeah.
All of a sudden, after 2 years, you say, we're not gonna give you a step and grade because you're not performing the job the way you're supposed to. You do that within a year, then they can figure, well, I gotta improve, and they'll have time to do it.
Right.
I don't see any reason why you can't inform somebody whether they're doing a good job formally or a bad job.
So you say it's 15 minutes with each and.
Yeah, it's not, I mean, sure, that's what,
Yeah,
we can change that.
Yeah, okay, so,
I don't think it's necessary, but on the other hand, if that's the way you want it, that's
Might be, yeah.
yes,
it's not like I have 50
Michelle,
employees.
that's what you think it should be? Okay.
Okay, so this appraisal form says annual, the handbook says bi.
Fine. So we're gonna make it annual,
So we move
So
it
it's
to
contingent.
annual.
to annual,
I would continue to move
okay?
the work of the committee with that change from that
Okay.
to this.
Okay, Don, are you still,
Yep.
okay? Is there any further discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Okay.
Good job, all, by the way.
Yeah, so I will read the resolution, Town of Lake Pleasant Town Board to adopt changes to employee handbook dated August 1st, 2022, offered by, whereas Town of Lake Pleasant Town Board will adopt changes to their employee handbook, whereas drafted changes to the October 16th, 2006 will be done by publishing company Public Sector HR Consultants LLC. So that will be the resolution. And I will take care of that in the morning, and the employee handbook is finally done. Thank you to everybody that helped and got that going. So next on the agenda is the high tunnel at the community gardens, and first I'm going to ask Karen McComb to speak as the library president, because we had asked the library and the library actually to apply for the grant, and the library was asking the town if we could come up with an MOU, so since then, we've done a lot of research, so Karen, I'll let you start.
Yep, thank you very much. Yes, we did meet. I did get a lot of information about it. I was down to Wells, as Betsy had reported at a different meeting, where we went down, we looked at the one at Wells. We subsequently had a meeting with Randy to get his input. Kathy was there, Nancy was there as well, Betsy and myself. To discuss the pros and the cons, is it apples to apples, comparing what they have down there, which is a wonderful setup. They have it set up very nicely. They did get this grant through an individual who was then reimbursed for it. My job was to present to the library board, which I will do tomorrow at our meeting, whether or not I think it is a good idea for the library to head this grant application and go forward with it, based on the pros and cons that we came up with through that research. Logistically, I don't think it works in our situation the way it does in Wells. The main reason being one of prolonged sustainability. And there's a 5-year commitment to this. I think that the logistics of the location where we have and the type of work that would have to be done in advance to make it a sound structure is not feasible based on the type of terrain that we have there. The idea is good. It's a good idea, and but it just doesn't work for everybody. When you look at long-term sustainability, we don't have the resources or the commitment of the population here that would commit to that type of sustainability. And it's unrealistic of us to assume that somebody will do that. And that's a requirement of the grant. My personal feeling will be to recommend to the board not to spearhead this grant. I think the town board, should they look at someone else other than the library, and the memorandum of understanding would certainly take any liability or anything off the library board. It's strictly our name on a piece of paper, but that is what they needed. But if the town board were looking for someone else, my recommendation would be that it's a very good idea, and it probably works in some communities, but just because it is a good idea is presented to you does not necessarily mean it's a good idea for you. So with that, I will take to my board tomorrow that I would recommend that we do not go forward with this at this time.
Okay, and Kathy and Randy and myself, we got together with Karen and Nancy, just thinking town board folks, and we all honestly had the same feeling. You basically said pretty much everything. The ground underneath the current garden is not adequate, so the prep work and materials would be huge to make it right, to fit into the specs for this grant. That was the first thing. The maintenance after the project is completed is very involved. It's not just put it up and the job is done. Randy reached out to Clay Early, the highway superintendent from Wells, to ask about his commitment. Wells seems to have a lot of volunteers, a lot of people that are there every day. They start in early spring and it goes till fall. A lot of their volunteers are year-round volunteers. We don't have that kind of volunteers. Those of us that live here basically work 2 and 3 jobs and wouldn't have the time to volunteer like that. So we don't have a garden club. Wells has a garden club. It just really works for them down there. They're really committed. It's a great project. They're doing a great job. I just myself would like to take to the board that I too I'm not feeling positive about this. I mean, I was very optimistic in the beginning, but after doing all the research that we've all done, I don't think that this is the right move for us. Perhaps the garden club, could possibly look into repairing the one greenhouse that they said was so bad. I don't know what repairs would be, and possibly get like a chicken wire fence. I know this week a bear got into the garden and tore the mesh fence down and pulled like the corn stalks out of the ground. I really felt bad for June when she sent me the email and showed me pictures. It's a shame.
It was only the corn. 'Cause I
Was it only
checked
the
it out.
corn?
Yes, the rest of it is tramped down, only the corn.
Okay,
On the one side.
okay.
The corn that's growing profusely on the right, didn't touch it.
Okay.
But there are 3 bears there, that people have seen that are in that area down as far as our house back. They're the little, the little ones that are sowing their oats to age, that type. Yeah, they're just having a good time, but they like corn apparently. And I don't even think the corn was fully grown. But just a lot of tramping down. The fencing is totally inadequate.
Yeah.
I think that whoever is going to, since the Christbuckers have left, they were the ones who were instrumental in starting that. And they made these gardens in New Jersey, they've done them before. What's Margaret's first husband's? Frank. When Frank first came here, they did a wonderful job. Again, great idea and sustainability, because neither one of them are able to do that anymore. Frank died and Margaret's not here anymore. A sustainability issue comes into it again. But if somebody were to spearhead that, and they certainly couldn't expect June to do this, yes, does that garden need help? And we've had a plot there for the last, ever since Frank put it up. Yeah, it needs new fencing, it needs chicken wire fencing. Does it need 2 greenhouses? No, it probably doesn't. It needs a group of people to either get together to do something. I mean, that's beyond the scope of what we are talking about here. I hope it survives. I hope somebody does something. I just don't think it's the town, we're giving them the land, on which to do it, but then they need that dedicated group of people to say, okay, what are we gonna do about this?
Well,
And I hope that happens.
and like they explained to us in Wells, people pay for their plot.
They do,
So
and we don't.
maybe they could start something like that to help pay for an adequate fence.
Exactly, yes.
These things are all timing, right? So,
Yeah.
10, 12, 14 years ago, we had such a remarkably active garden club.
Right.
And mostly ladies, with a few fellows helping, but those ladies have, dissipated through time, age, whatever, moved away, and they have not been backfilled. So it comes at a bad time for us, and I'm sure the pendulum has swung in a different way in Wells currently, but I think we should do everything we can to keep what we have going, but, there'll be other grants. A year or two down the road could all change.
And they as a group may be able
That's
to form an alliance
Right.
with someone where they can look through a cooperative extension grant, which is
Yeah,
what was granted to put those greenhouses on.
Yeah,
Through
when Nancy
when
Welch,
Nancy Welch
of
was
course.
there. So I think I would like to see the ball in that work.
Pendulum.
And just to mention, because I've been asked a couple of times this week when I've been out in public, about Cornell, actually applying for this grant. They cannot.
Yeah, they were not eligible.
They were not
for this.
eligible. This one.
No, not on
But as
this
Karen
one.
points out,
Right.
there are things that come directly out of Cornell
Right,
that a year or two down the road could be very
Yep.
applicable for us.
yep, yeah. So just that seemed to be confusion in the
All
community,
agreed.
so.
All right.
Okay, so everyone is kind of in agreement to that, okay? Sorry, that was tough. We put a lot of time into it, but I'm glad we did
We
because.
learned a lot too.
I learned a
Yeah.
lot of stuff surfaced that by
Right.
going down there, we saw it firsthand, we heard it firsthand, and it really educated us, so, okay, so to move on. Okay, the Waller RO system as of today is up and running, Bill was in, the new system, we were having a real problem, with, actually connecting it, the company wasn't sending us the schematics or anything, so that he could get everything finalized and hooked up, and he wouldn't actually hook it up till he had that. So we finally got it Friday. So Bill, actually connected it, Waller's very happy, the water tastes good, they're really, it's going very well. Bill stopped this afternoon and all is
He's very
good.
thorough as well.
He sure is, and he was over $100 cheaper than his estimate, which is very unusual.
Yeah.
He's a very
Nice.
honest
He
person.
really is.
Yeah.
Good find.
Yeah, okay, so next is tennis, tennis and pickleball courts. I did contact Casey Altavella, and we are going to be meeting to go through the grant paperwork. But I've also heard from a fellow that was here that night with the Pacifico Tennis Group, Terry Dowd. And Terry has offered to work with us to get the grant paperwork completed, he's done a lot of that. And he's also working on some kind of funding to help resurface the court. So we're gonna wait about another week and a half, and we're gonna get together and we're gonna start the process and see what we can do by filling out the grant. Terry is also going to the town of Arietta to see if he could get them to donate some money, because they don't have tennis courts in Arietta, and they all use the Lake Pleasant, so he would like to see Arietta as well jump on board for funding.
Me too.
So, yeah. So,
Wait, I was,
I will say that our tennis court reserve fund, Kathy was in this past week and we were talking, and I pulled it out on Kathy's request to read it again. And it's not a specific tennis court, it just says town-owned tennis courts in Lake Pleasant. So, if for some reason we could use that money to also help over here on Elm Lake Road, this is all something down the road we'll kick around. But for now, we have people working in our favor, and Nancy, I'm so sorry. Karen, thank you very much for connecting us
Oh,
with Kelsey, she's wonderful.
Yeah, she is
Yes,
wonderful.
yes.
She really is,
She's a good asset.
yes, she really is. So is there any more questions or concerns about the pickleball?
Well, I'll throw in, because I was going to be in committee anyway, but throw in that, Randy has the times now. It's 3 days a week in the mornings for tennis. 4 days now will be for pickleball, the 3 that are already on that side, and then Sunday afternoons from 3 to 5. And then we'll add on that sign, all of the time is open for recreation, and leave it at that.
Well, let's put open for either.
Yeah, just recreation. I
We
mean,
don't want remote control cars in there and all that.
No, true. Either, but,
You know, more people putting their kids in for babysitting services.
but just, we touched on a few things with them. The box is there, currently in place with both nets that the town Consolidated Health District bought, along with some paddles and some balls. So folks who have a mind to just set the nets up, which take 5 minutes, could be doing just that.
They lined the fourth court too, I
Yes.
was up there the other day,
Yeah,
so
all four are lined.
four are now lined.
Which of course, it never made any sense to me why they did the third and not the fourth, because you can't play tennis on it if they're on one half of the court. But it all looks good. The tennis players, as they said at the last meeting, the other lines do not concern them, nor do they see them when they're playing. I do think that I have no problem. I'd like to poll the board with the, I'll just call them pickleball club. They don't seem to have an actual name, but that the pickleball club folks, if they wanted, I don't have any issue. Doesn't seem to be anyone that I've spoken to at county, whatever, who does either. It's town property within county property. If they want to put another one there, put a lock on it for whatever else they do, I certainly have no issue with that. It seems that they have a desire for that.
So you talked, okay, let's remember. So you were gonna talk to the county and the groundskeepers and make sure that there wasn't
I
any.
didn't talk to the groundskeepers. I did talk to several people. I wasn't going to quote their names at county, but on the inside of the tennis courts, they would have no reason. That's our domain. It's left up to us to do.
Got it.
Apparently there's a little bit of wiggle room on cutting trees there. That might be talking to the county fellas or breaking twigs or whatever. But there's plenty of room. If you noticed where I took pictures, I'll show you. But where the brown box is, they're pretty simple things. People pull around their beach or their pool or whatever. I would, if the board wanted to allow them to put it, it's travel at your own risk.
I don't have a problem with it as long as it's not gonna impede people's ability to play tennis.
No, it's nowhere on the courts. The one, of course, isn't on the courts, but there's several places at each corner with plenty of room to site these if they still want to. I think one of our concerns was, well, geez, what happens if the stuff goes missing? It's like anything else, signage this is not our responsibility any more than it is when you put the hat up on the rack in the restaurant. Lost articles are not our province. They had a little lock on this box, which is gone. But if they were to put another box there, they'd probably put another little lock on it. But it's up to you folks how you feel about it.
I'm going to be honest, and I haven't changed my opinion since the last meeting. I do have a problem with it. I just feel that this is town property. And once you start that with one group, what if the tennis people want to leave their stuff and they have a box? Do we really want to start getting into this? That's my first concern. My second is it's, insurance, and I understand it's at own risk if they're leaving it there, but I just don't want to see us open ourselves up for anything. I'm only one person on this board.
No, I didn't think about that, and that's very valid concerns.
Yes, I agree with Betsy.
You do?
Yeah, you can have the whole courts lined with brown boxes. And if you let one, you gotta let the rest of them.
The one that is there is town-owned. It's our property. How do you feel?
I almost wonder if it would open them up to more vandalism, because if you have one box that's open, what's to stop them from just breaking into the other one, because they,
Think there's
it's
something
there.
better than that?
Right, but.
Because it's locked.
Right.
Well, they did say that they put everything in there that the Consolidated Health District funded, and they would have no problems if they kept the rest of their things in their trunks, and so we can leave it as such.
Okay,
So
sounds good to me.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Okay.
Randy's got as you said, about a week or so. I don't think we're really incumbent upon us to go too far down the road at this point with the village site down the road. You know, again, tennis players don't seem to have a problem with those lines any more than a gymnasium that has several sets of lines for different games. You still know where you are if you're playing basketball, you kind of block out the other stuff. But for now, they've got themselves 4 courts and at now 4 days, segments of days a week. So I think that they should be.
For a specified amount of time, and
Segments
that
of
was
days.
a nice closure.
It really was.
Yeah.
Neil, will you be contacting them, or do you want me to contact them?
I can reach out to them. I'm just going to inform them on what we can and have done and what we don't feel is really appropriate.
Okay, so now that our employee handbook is done and our decision has been made on the high tunnel, under new business tonight, we have got short-term rentals. I had asked Kathy if she would be willing to work on a team committee to start looking into short-term rentals. We actually took a course, a webinar last week, which was absolutely excellent. So at this time, we're only looking into safety, which would be the basic things like smoke detectors, fire extinguishers, carbon monoxide detectors, water be tested. And each team member will be given the information so that they can also watch this before they actually start meeting and doing their thing. The team's goal for us are safety and positive community collaboration. The team will be made up of 7 people. We're thinking 1 town board member, 1 village board member. Kathy went to the county tourism and Christy Wilt volunteered to sit on the committee, figuring that she has a lot of knowledge there with county tourism, and also she's a realtor, so that could also be helpful. We would like to have a short-term rental owner, which would be a pro to short-term rentals, someone that does not want short-term rentals, which I do have an individual that has been in touch with me for 2 years, sends me articles from all other states. I've got a file list that you can ask Kathy. I've got Inlet, Indian Lake, Lake Placid, Warren County, a town downstate. I've got their whole process, how they did it before they actually, adopted their law, how it works. So I think that can be very helpful. And we're also thinking someone from zoning, because when we watched this webinar last week, a lot has to do with zoning. So we're thinking someone that is connected with our zoning board would be very helpful. And we're hopeful if we could find an attorney. One of the other towns did have a part-time resident that was an attorney and was more than willing to sit on it and help with the legal aspects as they were going along. This is not something that's going to happen in 4 or 6 months. It's going to take a long time to actually do this and look at all the angles. So for now, just want to ask if anybody would like to participate or know someone, get the word out. If there's someone that really would like to sit on the committee, we're looking for volunteers. I will contact Jeanette tomorrow to let her know that we brought this to our board. If our board tonight all agrees that this is something we need to look into, I will contact Jeanette to try to get 1 village board member so that we have a good balance. Any questions?
Is the public allowed to ask a question?
What was that?
Is the public allowed to ask a
Go ahead, just
question?
one question.
My question is why? First of all, you mentioned you were doing this, you prefaced this by saying in the interest of safety, smoke detectors, etc. First of all, if that building had a certificate of occupancy granted to them, those things would have been covered. What is the difference between your concern on safety in short-term rentals, long-term rentals, private property owners, are you not concerned about an individual who owns their own house versus a person who has a long-term rental? Why are you targeting short-term rental?
Well, I just think it's because of the turnover. So many people coming, I just feel, do we want to wait
You talked
for?
about the safety aspect.
Yes, do we want to, I mean, we don't even know how many we have.
Do you need to know?
Are they, well, are they a legal rental? Are they in zoning where it's legal to do? Or are they in a residential, if someone is buying a home and just, using it as a rental and they don't live here? So they just bought this home and they're renting it and it's never been inspected.
Can I-
Sure, jump in.
Well, just devil's advocate across from, because I've been waffling on this thing for a few years, trying to figure out whether I'm a good old-fashioned American, commerce, yada yada, because it does solve a lot of problems. You know that I've been in the vanguard of trying to get more rental beds in this community for many, many, many years. And I've kind of danced with the devil on some of them because I think it's that important. Now that has been filled in a big part across this county. The problem is there are folks, for every person who says, well, why does it matter to us? There's someone calling us every day saying, you know how much traffic and parking problems we have on this street, we never had till Mr. Smith put in this or Mr. Jones put in that. So you come down to I just scribbled these while you were talking. Refuse, there's been concerns. Noise, plenty. Traffic/parking. But I think one of the biggest ones, beyond inspection/permits, has been contact person. So I don't have a problem with people buying and fixing my house or yours or whatever, and then putting it as Airbnb or whatever short-term rentals they have. I have a big problem if there's nobody from law enforcement or zoning enforcement or anybody else who there's a contact person for them. If they have a caretaker, so be it. I've had cabins across the street from me at the inn all along, and they lived way out of town. But they had Sheila Shaw or somebody I could call immediately when the place was in trouble. It appears more communities than not are now looking at this on a more sort of global way. Now, you're right, you should have a CO, but I mean, nobody's been inside of my house, not because the town doesn't care about me, but because I don't want anybody in my house checking on my stairs, etc. But I'm not taking in the public. From an innkeeper standpoint, it's quite unfair that you've got a pleasant down the street who can basically just put up a tar paper shack, start taking people in, but I get inspected 3, 4, 5 times a year by the health department to make sure all of those things you're talking about and more are taken care of because I'm a temporary resident. Because I'm not taking care of Neil or Neil's family. I'm taking care of Karen's and then Nancy's and so on. It's a big difference.
So 2 points that you made. Number one, it's a zoning issue. It's a zoning issue. That's how you
No.
started it.
No.
Yes, you said.
So RA or RD, doesn't matter?
Right, is someone in a commercial or in a residential neighborhood putting up a commercial enterprise? So that's a zoning issue.
Well, they're not putting up anything, Karen. They're taking their home, and turning it into a commercial enterprise.
Right.
But we have not inspected it. We have, no one has touched their forehead, not the state, not the county, clearly not the town or village. So we need to have these meetings to just determine whether the public thinks it's a good idea that, I mean, I don't want any more intrusion on our taxpayers, but at one point, it's, well, these people are coming to visit. If they stay in the Cedarhurst, they know they're safe for these things. If they stay on Timberline Drive, on X or Y or whatever, who's to know? Not me.
Where's the liability lie? It doesn't lie with the town, the liability
Oh.
lies with the homeowner and the person who's renting that.
But yes,
Yes.
Or the corporation.
Or the corporation.
I mean,
Right, or the corporation.
and certainly no one here is looking to take on that responsibility any more than we don't take on that responsibility as a house being built on South Shore Road and we had our inspector in there the other day and he inspected. He's not taking on the responsibility for the town. He's inspecting it for the town. We don't have to take on the insurance liability.
No, I know, but the whole program, the whole motion, the whole action that you're talking about seems to be that, I guess I'm not a big brother is watching type of.
Me either.
You know, and that intrusion of the town on private enterprise. Because I think there are safeguards in place that aren't being utilized
What are they?
without, number one, your zoning regulations, and number two, the liability being placed on the homeowners of.
So do you know of any zoning inspectors in the immediate area who on a regular basis
I
go
don't
into
think that,
people's homes?
are they enforced?
Or what enforcement? I'm not sure what you're saying.
If you're in a residential neighborhood and you're doing a commercial venture, where's the enforcement of the zoning?
There is none.
There is none.
Exactly, so as I just said, there is none,
Well,
there's no
but-
enforcement.
I guess that's what
So
she's
therein
trying to
lies
say.
the problem.
So that's
That's
what
what
we're
this
trying
committee
to
is trying to
do,
do.
is just for the safety issues, try to get this going so that the zoning officer once a year can go in, inspect those few things that I mentioned, just to be sure it's safe. I just think that we have so
Shouldn't they
many
be
of them,
doing that now?
and we need them, they're not.
We don't have a budget
They
for it, we
will-
don't have people
Anybody
assigned
that
to
has a
that.
license, like all our camps, Camp of the Woods, Camp Fowler, they, yes, get inspected. His place, my motel, they get inspected on a yearly basis with your codes enforcement officer, but also with the state.
I guess we'd get back to, when does something become a commercial enterprise? These are people who are both, let's just be honest, could be beating the tax man, I don't care. Could be paying their mortgage handsomely, I don't care. But what I do care about is if we're hearing in a community that my neighborhood has been despoiled because of the tremendous more traffic, they're renting to 12 and 14 college kids. If it was next to you, you'd be one of the people calling. This is, I'm not taking a stand, I'm saying this group is long time needed to flesh this out.
So I will say at town hall, once a month, one of the guys comes through with a clipboard and tests each one of the fire extinguishers and documents the test. So I know we do it at town hall, and I know Bob always had to go to Camp of the Woods and go through each thing, and it takes a long time to do, but just to be sure that it's safe.
And I can assure you, I've been in my house for over 35 years, and the next time I test my fire extinguishers will be the first time. Why? Because it's my goddamn house.
That's right.
But if I rent it to people, there's a certain feeling that there's some safety. These college kids may not ask it, but when they go reaching for it after they started a fire, oh, geez, this thing's out of date, it's not spent. There's certain times where you, and I'm glad you have a pro person on this and a non-supporter of it. That's what's gonna have to happen, because this will end up with some new local regulation. As I've said to you, I think we're spinning our wheels doing this town to town. I think this should be done at the county level, and the county has run from this like its hair was on fire.
Why?
I brought it up 3 times.
Why did the county run for it?
Can I tell you?
I brought it up 3 times since I've been in.
Why?
But the more universal and accepted group of regs for this sort of thing will make it fairer for everyone. I've got neighbors, friends that do Airbnb, that are the renters, and that's fine, I'm for them. But wouldn't it be great if they had a acceptable set of parameters to follow? But again, you can't rely on, I thought you could, because I've never gone to an Airbnb, but I thought you could rely on Airbnb to police themselves. That is a screaming joke. They take money, is what they do. And so, everyone's out there right now. How many did you just rattle off? These are all other communities that are in this fight. Different levels of where they're at, I'm sure.
Yeah, Indian Lake is completed, Inlet's completed, Old Forge, I believe, if they're not completed, they're just about done, like Placid is done.
And you have copies of, let's say, Indian?
Yeah.
I mean, again, I honestly, reinventing the wheel would be nice if we got some continuity.
So anyway, so this is how we're starting. We don't want to make this a major, we want the Airbnbs, we want all
We
the
need 'em.
short-term rentals. Our community needs it, we just need to be sure that they're safe. We don't want anybody hurt, that's all. So that was the whole just behind getting this going. Plus I have one person that's been nagging me since I got in here, but we won't go there. He will be the con on the committee.
Con?
Okay, anything else? Anybody else want to add anything to that? Kathy, did I cover it all? Okay. Next is cemetery committee report. Randy.
Okay, hopefully you guys all have one of these lovely highlighting sheets. The rules and regulations, and a lot of it is grammar and such that's being changed. We added a line, under general, line 2, it did say without authorization by the town clerk, and then it stopped. And now we are adding and the highway superintendent, because basically my position is the one to go out and put the flags in the ground where half the guys dig. So she wouldn't know where that is or anything. So we put and in there so that it's both of us. The plots must be renewed in writing. I believe it said every 4 or 5 years.
It's fine.
And we upped that to 10 years, just to stop the amount of paperwork that people would have to come in and say, and, let's face it, nobody does it. Nobody, I mean.
I had one last week.
Yeah.
I forgot the
There's a very
name.
small list of people that come in and say, yeah, I wanna keep my reservation.
I did, but not with you.
I think this gentleman stops in
Yeah.
every year. He's this cute little guy. I didn't even catch his
Oh.
name. We were in the middle of something. I said, sure, okay.
Go
We went
ahead.
on this way.
Continue.
Yeah, so the biggest thing is people don't read deeds. And we've had that discussion with some of the people already.
So Randy, is the no pets because you're a scaredy cat? You're afraid of
Pet cemetery.
what that might bring on?
No dogs.
All right, you're skipping over things.
Yeah,
We got a lot of other stuff.
Sorry.
We'll get that to the last, because that's why it's there in the end. Grammar, yeah. Here's a little more serious one. Once the minor children, because there's an unlimited amount of people, if mom and dad have 6 kids, they say we can reserve 6 kids in our cemetery. Well, so 6 kids turn 18, if they happen to have 4 more kids,
Yeah.
it doesn't necessarily mean they're going to be right next to them.
Well, you have to stack them.
Well, we could do that.
That's what you do here.
They do that in other places. So once the children are, at that point, 18 years old, and they want their kids to be in the cemetery, they either have to come in and reserve other plots so that their children can be next to them, or whatever. We have to make,
Of course,
change things around.
keeping in mind, this is the most generous you will find anywhere in the world.
Correct.
So the fact that they have to come in and make reservations for their grandkids or grandkids, that's a very small ask.
I have an acquaintance that does the accounting for a cemetery in Rome, New York. Now, her position is just the accounting department of the cemetery. Can you imagine this? It's $500 to do the burial itself. She didn't know the exact amounts, but it's very different and a lot more money to reserve a plot into that cemetery. And it's very family oriented and so on and so forth, of which part of the cemetery you're in and everything else, but she only knows the accounting part of it. They hire out contractors to do the burials.
Well,
I have a couple of questions when you're done.
Okay.
Next is paragraph 8 and 10. We'll see this in a few spots. We're changing paragraph 8 and 10, so let's go down to 8 and 10. 8 is the fees for burying on weekends and the holidays, which is still barely covering our overtime hours. That's what it's meant for. The next is number 10. We've now come into 1 or 2 times. One guaranteed, 2 coming up. There are people want to move the remains of cremations, either around in a cemetery or completely out of our cemeteries. So this is not a 5-minute job. For instance, mom wants so-and-so closer to her all of a sudden.
But these are hand dug, right? First.
Yes,
Yeah,
cremations are hand dug, but finding that cremation,
yeah.
that could be in just a little round container somewhere in a
Whoops.
large.
2 by 2, 2.5 by 2.5 square.
Well, no, the old plots are 5 by 10 that they started doing these cremations. This is what we're running into in the next upcoming one. It's a 5 by 10 area and there's a little tiny jug somewhere and we don't know if it's cardboard or plastic or what.
That's like a geocache.
There you go.
So that being said, there is some time involved in this, making sure that, and then there's also, we found out today, there's time involved in finding out that who has permission to exhume or whatever you wanna call this person. It's next of kin, survival kin. So if there's only 2 brothers and they want mom removed and one of them says no, it's no. But if there's 3 and 2 of them say yes, then it's yes. There's a lot of, we were on the phone with some people that, for this today.
This is for disinterments.
Disinterment.
Jeez.
And the spouse overrides the children.
Yeah. So 2 brothers want mom out of there and dad says no, it's no. Yeah, well, it's happened, you know,
Makes sense.
now twice this summer. So
No, I-
obviously, something needs to be done about
You're
it.
speaking out of experience. I'm just incredible.
And the second one is that.
This is
permanent, not
only for
permanent, but-
cremation though.
Hence, the section 13.3 disinterment is reference New York State rules and regulations part of that. And next to kin, we found out today that we need that in there because New York State back in 2014 said that, giving cemeteries, basically, how did he say it? The New York State basically washed their hands of what can be done and can't be done in the cemeteries. It's up to the cemetery.
It's up to the
rules.
cemeteries.
On a couple things. Next one is number 22,
I know.
but, we normally only allow 1 headstone, say, or plaque on a grave. Well, when a lot of the veterans are on the back side of the headstone plaques, but now they are also doing what's called a footstone for the veterans. So now we needed to put in there an exception for veterans plaques, allowing those plaques to be in, making it 2
Gotcha.
plaques and or headstones in it, for, you know, allowing for these. We only previously allowed 1, and we just kind of overlooked it, but if we're rewriting these rules, we shouldn't be overlooking things, especially the rights for veterans to have their plaques. Next is another one for you, Neil. Movement of headstones damaged and any damage or occurring movement is not responsibility of the town of Lake Pleasant. The reason that needs to be in there is a lot of people are having their headstones brought to the grave site prior to the burial. Now, the burial, we go up there and the headstone is in our way because it was either not placed in the right spot or a lot of the time in the older cemeteries, there's barely enough room to get the rough box in. And then we end up putting the headstone right on top of, you know, the end of the rough box. So when we start looking at some of these headstones and they are getting more and more delicate and more fancy, we're not responsible for, you know, moving them or if there is any damage to them. You know what I mean? We normally take pride in moving them out of the way and such so we can get to them, you know, get to what we have to do, but if there is damage, I just want it in here that, you know, we're not gonna go out and just shove and push things,
Yeah,
but
fine print.
We need to clear up 20 just a little bit because just to say that any movement of headstones during burial process, you know.
Well,
Because it's a very vague,
during our activities, how about that?
okay, any movement of heads.
Because like Fish Mountain, we sometimes have to move headstones out of the way so that we can back trucks and vehicles to, you know.
Yeah.
And then we put the headstones back where they were because we don't have the like luxury of Airville had with the roadways.
Yeah.
Right, plus tree trimming and that type of stuff.
Right. When you
It's a possibility,
And tree branches.
yeah.
And then the next is, obviously the best one, family pets. This is another thing that the state of New York is now allowing. If your cemetery rules wish, you can now bury legally, according to New York State, pets in your town graves, sites. We don't have space enough to start burying everybody's pets in their own little
Stephen
spot.
King got us over.
So, question, someone has a headstone and they actually have provisions in their headstone that would be allowed, correct?
What do you mean provisions?
Cremation.
Provisions that there's actually a spot drilled to put their pet's remains in the stone.
Yeah, I know. It's not
I know what happens.
It's not taking up
I
space.
know, it's not taking up,
It's not
that's
taking
where
up
I'm going.
space, I guess
And
that's,
it's not buried.
Yeah,
it's
it's
not
Right.
buried either.
It's not
But I
very,
just know
The other- yeah.
it's something that is going on, it's happening.
Five of ashes over it,
I know.
that's different.
the other thing that's happening is people
Kind of
are
weird.
buying specific trees that come in these planters that are then buried in the ground with the cremation at the bottom and some sort of soil that helps the tree grow with all the extra fertilizer, but but we covered that with no trees.
Yeah,
Right,
yeah.
trees.
I'm
Yeah.
sure it's
Yeah.
trees.
I heard.
They're cool.
A nice thing to have in your yard.
Yes,
Not
but
that-
then if you ever sell your property,
Yeah.
Do you have to disclose that?
When my
Distant
sister,
term.
when my sister buried, sold
Do you?
the family,
Bring it with, do you have to disclose that somebody's buried under that tree?
So I have 4 pets to bury, but I haven't over the years. I'm saying I have to.
wait,
I'm
wait,
not
wait,
supposed to do that?
you have them? That's-
I have their ashes,
Oh,
not
oh,
them.
okay.
I don't have them in the freezer.
got a really big freezer.
Little Sears chest freezer.
Wheels on a roll thing.
Yeah, okay.
I've got questions.
Okay, Don. Number 4, we're going back.
Reservations shall be limited in quantity to 2 adults plus an unlimited number of their minor children.
Mhm.
Once minor children are of age, plot reservations may be made in their names.
Correct.
A plot is basically, one plot is big enough for one burial, correct?
Correct.
So how can you bury an unlimited quantity of their minor children
Because
in a 5 by?
No, you're reserving, like, I'll tell you, George and I reserved a spot, and at the time, because of the age of the children, and life throws you lemons, we reserved 2 plots, one for each girl, big enough for a full body. One of them is now of age, so she should make
One of
the
those.
reservation for that spot in her name.
Okay,
That was the intent of it, but if it's causing confusion, we may need to rewrite it.
okay. And that's another thing, if, say, Florence and I each reserve a plot and heaven forbid one of our children died, we want them buried there. This is more or less a family thing, or do I have to be in that one spot and say my daughter, my grandson, or somebody cannot be?
If you want to give up a spot to your, anybody basically, you would come in and change it in our reservation book.
Okay,
The way I look, that's the way I would read that,
Me
at the
too.
committee's here.
Yeah, nobody wants to
You
be
give it
heartless
up.
about it.
Yeah.
Is it worth adding, right at 4, is it worth adding that these, right after need to be made in their names, that these plots may be non-contiguous? I mean, when we're talking about unlimited, there's no way we can plan for that, for the Pages or the Brookses, or not for your family. Does it need to be spelled out that when they come in to make these new reservations, that more than likely may not be in the same area.
Oh, we tried, I mean, we definitely do explain that when we
You do.
open up the map and say,
Right.
okay, these are the spots we have.
Right.
If you want 6 spots, you have to go over here for 6 spots.
Right.
And then if you wanna add on and there's no more around you at that point in time,
Right.
then that's just, you know, it's first come, first served.
Right.
I don't know how to put that more blunt.
I believe it's first right.
It is.
First die, first buried.
It is. I put it better, you know.
No, yeah, I'm saying.
Well, I remember somebody talking about burying people in order of their dying. That was taken up on our cemeteries at one time when I first started working here in town.
Could I just say one little short thing?
Yep.
Usually with a cemetery, you reserve a lot. And the lot consists of 2 plots, 4 plots, or whatever you want to reserve. That's the way it was set up in Speculator Cemetery. You don't reserve a plot, you reserve a lot. And if you need a 2-plot lot, it's there on the map, they can map it out. Or if you want 6, then you do that.
Right.
But you don't reserve a plot, you reserve a lot.
The town, they're doing plots.
Town plots.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's 'cause
Thank you, Shorty.
that's the way it was set up years ago, so it's,
One other question.
okay.
All the lots are according to state law. Is it state law that you need to have a rough box?
I don't believe so, but
But isn't that part of
It is.
our,
our,
and it's not,
well, I think it's more so well, maybe we need to review, that's a good question, because I think so it doesn't matter and we get down to this, because I believe the funeral home, it might be state law, because I think they pretty much, I've never seen it not happen.
you go to an old cemetery and you can see that.
Oh, yeah, I
Oh,
know
yeah.
that. Yeah,
Because the structure is missing.
Yeah.
right, because,
Casket lots.
Yeah.
box.
Ground cells.
So you're suggesting we add 23 to all,
Well, that's it. I don't know if it's in state law or not.
oh,
but
right,
It's just, I thought that was part of the,
I thought it was too, but I don't know.
okay. Yeah, I think it should be
Can't
added.
answer that question.
It should be added. It's not.
If it's not, so we'll have to find out. Big problem.
But it's our.
I know we don't make it mandatory for cremations,
Of course not.
you know, because
Well,
you can
that's,
do whatever you want.
that's true. There is thing in here, it says cremated remains shall be made in a crematory pot. Rigid containers such as wood, plastic, or concrete. Some people just like to sprinkle. That doesn't sound good.
That's right.
Mhm.
I'm a sprinkler.
Are you allowed to do that?
You're not allowed to do
You're not allowed
that.
to.
It's in here.
Not in our cemetery,
Yeah.
but a cardboard box isn't gonna last long.
I don't think.
When they're not, it's asking to be moved.
Yeah, I don't think there's any health concerns.
You just don't tell me.
No, there's no health concerns because it's all been cremated, as we
Number
learned today,
16.
everything ends at the crematory. All tracking, all everything.
That's true.
We had a long discussion with Mr. Mackey today.
I missed him. Why didn't
Yeah,
you
it's
call
lunchtime.
me?
Oh, he's scintillating, Bill. Oh, oh, man?
No, we talked with Brian.
Brian was supposed to
I'd
talk
rather
about
talk to Bill.
it. I'm very well acquainted with Bill.
Bill's right out of central casting.
We were in.
Okay, so
Okay.
So besides for the whole rough box addition,
And the wording of number 20,
yeah,
any movement of heads. How about any damage incurring during movement of headstones is not the responsibility?
Any movement of headstones during burials?
Damage
That's where it's
incurred, any damage incurred during movement of headstones,
We're maintenance.
yeah. For burial, then, it's just movement of headstones, because you might have to move them to get where you need to go, or,
Any kind of maintenance. You don't wanna have to spell it out. But you wanna add maintenance to that?
I would think so, if you're,
Maintenance.
if you like, you know, South Shore Cemetery, all those old trees got.
Okay, so
branches
here's another scenario I'll throw in there and say, sadly to say, somebody vandalizes it.
Yeah, well, that's a different,
It's still movement,
yeah,
And it's
So-
not our problem.
and it definitely should not be our problem.
Right.
That's why I say any movement. Mother Nature, frost comes up and tips it over.
Any damage incurred during movement of.
It's all
snow
movement.
is
That's not maintenance.
that's
It's not maintenance, it's not this, Mother Nature did it.
So it's,
Leave it where it is.
so,
maintenance.
I mean, you guys may have to move them for a variety of reasons, but if somebody else or Mother Nature takes it, it's just being moved, not the responsibility.
Well, again, this is that separation. If you pay a great deal of money to be in, you know, Forest Lawn, the cemetery is responsible for all these sort of things. And,
You're the first part.
Here, this is a free
Second,
municipal burial site
Any movement of headstones and any
that we
damage
just
occurred
can't
during-
incur long-term.
Because they are
Right.
responsible for moving it, they're just not responsible for the damage, right?
Do you require pardons?
Here, just cross off, just cross off movement of headstones. Any damage occurred during movement of
It's just
I
committee's work, right?
This is just recommendations to the committee, from the committee.
The town wouldn't be
Any damage
responsible.
incurred during movement.
Excuse me, this is just recommendations from the committee, so you're gonna go back and change a couple of things, and then next meeting, you will be
Okay,
looking to adopt it?
I guess we are.
okay.
Is
And
that
then
what
we'll
you're
find
doing?
out whether rough boxes are,
Right.
I'm deferring to you anyway.
and get rid of our
And we'll figure out
dangling
the wording on 20.
prepositions.
So moving
You can't have
along,
prepositions.
we're gonna go to committee reports. Kathy?
Thank you.
I was on the cemetery committee, we also met and drafted a letter which will be going out shortly, that we've talked about a couple of times, but the cemetery committee met, and this is what we've been sharing with you.
Okay.
Youth rec is all yours.
Okay, so Youth Rec, we have not had a good turnout for our crafting on Mondays, so for the month of August, Sam has decided to discontinue those. We're having decent turnout for our Tuesday and Wednesday trips. They went a couple weeks ago to the Saratoga Kids Museum and the pool there. They had 10 kids show. Last week, we went to a river tubing and like a treetop ropes course. There were 8 kids there. And then they went to the fun spot in Lake George the following day with 13 kids. So it was a decent turnout. They did have to cancel the one trip the one day because of the weather. It was just the heat index was too high and it was supposed to be an outdoor hike. So just for the kids' safety, they decided to cancel. That's it for Youth Rec. And then as for the website, Pete Newell did reach out to me and Stephanie because he's listed at the bottom of the website as the contact person, which it does the IT for the website, but would like his email removed because people are contacting him with issues about the town. I told him I had no problem with my information being put there, but I don't know how to do it. So he's gonna look into how to change that, and then that hopefully will be a non-issue.
Okay.
Does he get in touch with us when he has somebody call him?
I would assume so.
Never has me.
He's never had.
I think I've had an email forwarded from him before.
Okay.
Neil?
Nothing further for me.
Done.
Yep.
Okay. Step, we're in the cemetery, okay. So, next, looking for a motion to pay the bills from July 29.
So,
Second?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion?
easy bill. Good bill.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, next is public comment. Nancy?
Just keep an eye out on your Nathan Latour bills when they come. I got a bill for 2019, and I called, that it was for $68, which kind of didn't fit copay or anything of that nature. So I called to find out what service was for, and she said, oh, it was spit out by our old system, ignore it. And I told her, fine, but I just want to put that out there, that if you get like a weird bill or something, or their billing is horrible, because it never has the date of service except for the first time around, and if you call up and say you didn't send it to the insurance company, you do not find out what the date of service is.
I thought the
Okay.
new system would address that, but if they're still spitting out old bills, that's.
Yeah, they're still spitting them out, and it's very odd. And the other thing is, now that you put the handbook to bed, the only thing doing that annually, is there a date specified in there? Like, is it the anniversary date, or just whenever the supervisor, not you, but the employee supervisor feels it's necessary to do it? Because the biannual ones were every 2 years at the anniversary date.
Anniversary date.
Right, so that might be a
Yeah,
good
do
time.
it on the anniversary date of that, so that the
That's
same.
smart.
That would be the most
Yeah,
sensible.
yeah.
Otherwise, you might hire somebody and then have to evaluate them 3 months later if everybody's like January 1st or.
Right, so the anniversary date works
Yeah.
out. But it was just a thought that came in my head after you guys.
That's a good thought.
So we're not changing anything.
I don't think we need that, just, that'll be his province to do that.
Is that it, Nancy?
That's it.
Okay, Shorty.
Friday, we just buried my cousin. He was the oldest family member. If he had lived to Friday, he would have been 96 years old. But anyway, we buried him in an old cemetery down in Columbia County. It's a town/church cemetery. There's a big sign there that says the cemetery is under the direction of the New York State Cemetery Association Board. And they have a 474 number, which is Albany, the state number. So I can give somebody that number tomorrow if they want to call that board, the cemetery board, and find out some of the answers to those questions.
I'll take it.
We have 2 family cemeteries, one in West Kent, that's where we buried John, and then our family cemetery is over in the town of Stuyvesant, and the same sign is there in the cemetery owned by the town of Stockport. So it's something new, not, it says under the direction of New York State Cemetery Association Board. So
Do you have the phone number, Shorty?
I've got it on my iPad.
Okay. You could get it to Kathy?
Yeah,
What is it?
I'm gonna get it to.
Yep.
Okay. Okay. Karen?
Yeah, would I not say something?
No, that's okay.
Well, I got a bill for $80 in some sense from 2019, and they told me that it was because of a Medicare audit, that they had gone back and found that secondary insurances were not being billed properly at the time, and she told me to throw it away also. But, so I got a different answer
Yeah.
as to why I got a bill as well.
Just make sure that makes the minutes, so it goes in the newspaper,
Yeah,
so
so-
seniors that get these bills
Exactly, so that they.
understand what's going on.
Right. Secondly, putting a different hat on now, Historical Society. I don't know if I remember if I reported at the last meeting or not, that we are now incorporated, did I?
No.
Okay, we are now the Speculator Lake Pleasant Historical Society, INC. So that is now official. It took about 9 months in order for the state to come through with the paperwork. And the next will be the filing for the 501c3, which
Very
I don't have time to do this summer, but I will start that process in the fall. Secondly, we did have an open house recently for the museum. I think, Shorty, thank you very much. The museum looked absolutely wonderful. Our membership drive was not as good as I would have liked. Casey was there with some refreshments. We had some incentives for people to join. It was an effort, but most importantly, we had some nice visitors into the museum that day. And I think that is just as important as getting new members. Speaking of new members, the Historical Society is not funded by the town. We don't receive any town funds. It's strictly funded by donations and minuscule membership dues that people pay every year. With that being said, what we had taken on, which we're glad we did, not in hindsight, is Route 66. We do use the money that we have, that we get either from membership or private donations at the museum, for new displays at the museum, should they need them. We just purchased a new sandwich board for them. Luckily got a new file cabinet, got that for free, which worked out well. But most importantly, and as importantly, is the maintenance of Route 66. The buildings are great, people walk down there, they're very much in awe about what is down there, these cute little buildings. They're getting more attention now that the fire tower is down there, and it's sort of like an event. You can go through Route 66, look at the fire tower, and walk down the pathway all in one little excursion, so to speak. However, Route 66 needs some work, it needs some maintenance. I'm just putting the word out, if there's any carpenters, it needs carpentry work. It's not major carpentry work, the church needs some repair, but it's more than Sally or Tom Frost should be expected to do. So I'm mentioning it tonight so that if it does get in the minutes, that if there is anybody who is a carpenter who would like to donate a couple of hours of their time, we would furnish the materials, but we need some repairs done so that we can keep these buildings looking as good as they do. We've been doing the painting and that kind of things, and some minor repairs, but not carpentry work that is required. I think that was it.
Karen, can I just ask you,
Yeah.
does the chamber have any kind of brochure on Route 66?
We do, we have them
There is?
Yeah, there is one, I think there's one down there, I think there's a Route 66 one.
I don't know if they're there in a second, but there was.
Yeah, there is, right, yes, there is, because we have one on the museum and the Historical Society and Route 66
And you
as
do
well.
Route 66.
Right, yeah.
And that historical marker looking
Yes,
sign
marker, right.
is quite
Right, yes.
detailed as well.
Right. Actually, our historical markers are slowly being replaced because the ones that we originally had made by Tom Bonney, some of the letters are wearing off.
Yeah.
And Aaron has a new process of doing it on metal, that he's slowly replacing one after another. And we still have some that we never got to, but we're replacing the ones that were there. And they look good, they still look good, but you don't want them to look shabby.
Right.
So as soon as the letters start wearing off, Aaron has it on his to-do list to do that, so.
He's doing a good job.
He does a
Really
great
is
job.
doing a
The
good job.
Rhinelander Rhinelander tour was very well received. We had about 30 people. He had a wonderful video here, and then Dave took them back in the woods to the actual site. That worked out very good. The Utica Zoo worked out very well. Tomorrow night is the Shakespeare in the Park. That's not a joint historical library, that's a library. Okay, take off the historical hat. Tomorrow night is A Midsummer Night's Dream at the Pavilion at 7 o'clock. So the historical is doing good, and the library is doing good too. And the two have a joint relationship together as well. But tomorrow night is A Midsummer Night's Dream at 7 o'clock. Refreshments will be served, compliments of Casey, I believe, I'm not sure what they are though. And admission is free. So, would appreciate that on your website as well. There you go, our program.
A little culture here.
There you go,
Very
a
nice.
little bit of everything. From Route 66 to Shakespeare.
A little culture.
Okay, that's it with public comment, Irene? Okay, alrighty. So we move on to roundtable. Don?
And nothing at this time.
And Neil?
I'll just circle back for 1 second on the primary. I know that have you gotten, you had mentioned 2 weeks ago, people calling you.
I've known who calls.
Okay. I'm happy about that. I'm aware of the fact that there's going to
Spider.
another long-term employee there who's going to be leaving. It'll be a good addition to the county in the new position. But, so I will be calling tomorrow to Patrice McMahon's office to see what, if any, plans are being made, because clearly we've sort of been left at the altar as far as getting another provider. But for the bulk of us, I mean, everyone needs doctors, but for the bulk of it, the two ladies out front are the faces of your little primary care office, and to lose one, I know we had a big transition when Veronica got sick. So this is a mixed blessing. She's a nice gal, I'm glad which is a really big hole. I hope that they're already
miss there.
really making sure that we get these things filled, so.
Yeah.
I do. But, Margie, just put in for the county, and at least the words that she has been hired on with the county, which is great.
Yep.
She's staying and putting down roots, but 13 years she's been at primary, so that's a big seat to fill. So I'll report back, but hopefully, hopefully just keeping them aware of the fact that, you know, we have concerns about making sure we have the fullest coverage during these next couple of months.
Is there a doctor there?
Oh, okay.
Well, I'm only asking about that. I have nothing. It's been radio silence, which is what's bothersome.
I just was asking, do we have a doctor?
No.
No, we've got Carla, and Carla is wonderful, but this time of year, we would normally have she and a physician at least 2, 3, 4 times a week.
Yeah, and somebody needs to sign on.
Well, I mean, she's got a physician that oversees her work, of course.
Fort Olive
Yes.
doctor does.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
So
the
her-
Mayfield,
she's
the Mayfield
retired.
office is in constant contact. And they're good docs, it's just, those are files that get reviewed, right, charts, and signed off on things, but it's about volumes this time of year, not the quality of care, much as how many people are there to make sure things are covered, and now, as I say, out front.
And it's concerning because there's a lot of times that Carla is not there. Someone calls because they're sick and they're telling them to go to Port Alden or Mayfield, that we don't have a doctor this week. And that's a big concern. That's really.
It's a concern that is only workable on short term, and it's been too long. I'll report that.
Kathy?
Nothing.
Michelle? So, last week we received an anonymous $5,000 donation for the Consolidated Health District, earmarked for, thank you, Neil, for the health center again, and a letter of appreciation has been sent out. The museum fundraiser, we're now up to $29,179.
It's a little jump.
Yeah. We had our annual inspection at our dog kennel on July 12th, and we received a report from Ags and Market of the inspection, and everything was satisfactory, which is good. Starting September 1st, Nathan Latour will be raising their fees, so I have copies up here if anybody wants to take them, so you have them. And get this one. Due to the paper shortage, the printing of the Association of Towns magazine is on indefinite delay. For updates, you have to go to www.nytowns.org.
Bless you.
Thank you.
The grant application for the museum project has been submitted. The awards notifications will be announced in mid to late December. So that has been sent on. Our assessor, Lynn Billings, has completed her 6-month basic training, which is one of the requirements by ORPTS. She is now recognized as a sole assessor. She still has a couple of components remaining to achieve once they are available. So when you see Lynn, please congratulate her. She's doing a great job, she really is. And we have received our first library phone bill since we agreed to make changes, and the savings are $114.75 a month.
Nice.
Yep, still waiting for the museum bill. It took Frontier 3 weeks to send us a shipping label so that I could send back the modem. Now for the not so good news, chamber update. There's a new schedule. Kate Eldridge will be working 2 days a week. That is all she is interested in working. Bonnie Reisinger has left the chamber. She is working another job with the county. So Gary will be doing the farmer's market and also working in the office full-time. Donna has retired permanently, so she is done. So that's where we stand with the chamber. And last week, Randy, myself, and Stephanie sat down with Steve Son and went over our insurance, liability insurance stuff. And we added fences to tennis courts and cemeteries and anything that we thought as we went along. We had to make a couple of corrections. So we'll be waiting in about a month. We'll get the information from him to figure out what it's going to cost. That's all I have. Anybody have anything else?
Just to add to your chamber synopsis there, they did put out today that they are looking to hire an administrative assistant.
Pretty active.
There is another small
That's-
part-time job available in that office.
Glad to hear that because I didn't hear from Pete on this, so I was very disappointed when I kind of heard it from the
Yeah, they got it on
outside.
Facebook.
Yes.
Okay, good.
Paper.
Okay, and our next meeting will be on Monday, August 15th, here at the Lake Pleasant Library at 7 PM, and I'm looking for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Okay, second? Okay, Rochelle. Okay. That's it.
Thank you.
Earlier.